Yo, we are here another week. A lot of stuff has happened this week. Jesus Christ. Holy hell, man.
I was saying to Jake before we got on, I was like, it feels like summer 2021, but we're speed running it all in a 3-week period. It's like literally from like mid-June to end of August is like it's compressed in the ordinal space into like a 2-week window. It's literally incredible.
Dude, there is so much happening from the emblem side to the to all the ordinal stuff. There was like 4,000 mints this week that had happened. I had put a post recently. I participated in the OMB mint yesterday. That was cool. That floor went up like 3x immediately out of nowhere. There was, I think the whales are minting today. There was the control or seize control mint was like a few days ago. And then on Sunday, you have the Bitcoin miners mint. It's just never ending in this space. Oh,
dude, what was with that mint? I mean, what was it? It was like, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 for that mint. Tell me about this one, man. I'm like, wow, that guy, who was it? Is ZK Shark or whatever?
ZK Shark, dude. He raised $7 million from this.
Oh my God, boy.
So
he cashed in on his little piece of fame, man.
So it's him and Nolish. I think Nolish is like full-time on the team now too, which was smart. So they minted out, or they minted, so there was 100 of the original collection. That was, or maybe 200. I think it was 100 red eyes and 100 blue eyes. And then this mint of 1,800, or number might be off a little bit, was all on block 9 sets, and they were all the green eyes, right? The art is literally just like stenciled, hand-drawn kind of stuff.
Bro, it's not about the art, right?
It never is.
Art, bro.
Before I go on the details, it was super funny. I saw Noah today, right? The guy who was from Christie's that was... that's now in charge of CryptoPunks. He like quote tweeted the picture of it and was like, wow, people paid $2,000 for this. And I was like, you're literally in charge of pixel images. like what? Who are you to make? Who are you to make?
Your entire thing is based on pixels. Yeah, but we were innovative. I'll get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, dude. It's so I love when people who are in the same industry trash each other, because it's like you're literally in the same. It's literally the same exact thing.
Literally the same. I mean, obviously it's not the same, but the idea and everything around it is literally the same.
Yeah. So this mint yesterday, my friend gave me a whitelist, allow list. So basically, if you had one of those original 200, you got 4 whitelist spots, and the whitelist mint was 0.09 Bitcoin, so it's about $2,700. The public mint was 0.29. And so dude, I think that was just to like steady it. I'm going to be honest. I fucking hell sold on accident though. I actually thought, so it's funny because I minted it. And then all of a sudden I looked at the floor like an hour later and it was at 0.3 Bitcoin. And I was like, wait, what? And then on Magic Eden, it said you could mint more. And I was like, wow, did I just find a loophole where I could like sell and then just buy more of them? And so I sold it, and my friend was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I could buy more. And then after I got the Bitcoin, it was like, you can't mint anymore. And I was like, God damn it.
So it was bound by wallets and all that sort of stuff. And so
yeah, it was like it was a glitch on Magic Eden's website where once you minted, it didn't say you were like had minted it. It was just like the button was still there. But yep. Honestly, is a 2,000 Bitcoin collection sustainable at 10,000 ETH floor or $10,000 floor? That's pretty much what it is right now. Yep. I think it's to be determined, I guess. But I mean, ZK's got a following, and Nolish's got a following as well, which is the rare sat hunter. Everyone's been in on it. I actually want a mullet. He put some mullets on some. ZK did. And so whenever the price comes down, I think I'm going to try to get one of those mullets.
Bro, the price is never coming down.
My friend was like, I don't think it's going to come down. And I was like, I find a hard time for it to sustain at 10,000, 2,000 of them or 2,100 of them at 10K. Maybe this time is different, but to me, I was asking my friend, and I know ZK's got a big following. Nolish does. ZK, I don't know if you saw ZK's tweet. He said he left, he was engaged and left his engagement 5 months before, left the country, and I guess has been exiled by his parents for quitting his finance job to go mint out this like 10K project that he wants to do. I guess the goal is to get it to 10K over time.
Okay, well.
Dropped his life for it.
more. Well, who wouldn't? I dropped my life for $7 million too. Dude. I mean, come on, man. That's like what dropped life, bro. That's like ridiculous. Ridiculous amount. And yeah, we want to get it to a 10K so they do more drop. I mean, come on, man. We're literally right in the heart of 21 bull season. This is like people just sucking in these drops, and for them to take 7 million off the table. I mean, look, we had Azuki took 30 million, 32 million off the table 3 days earlier. Liquidity's out there. Obviously, it's incredible how much free floating cash there is. It surprises me. Always surprises me. But look, everybody wants this pump, right? They hear a story like you. What you bought it at what 0.03 and
0.09 and then went to 0.3.
0.3. So you tripled your money in an hour or whatever. People love that, dude. They want that too, right? Yeah. The odds of you getting it at 0.3 and it going to 0.9. That's a whole nother ball of wax, man.
Yeah, dude. Just looking at it in Bitcoin too. You don't realize it when it's at 0.09. You're like, oh, it's I'm still thinking in ETH terms, even though I've been in Bitcoin land for like 6 months, like full time now. And then you sell it, and you're like, wait, that's $9,000. Like, Jesus Christ, man!
I mean, we thought like 0.05 ETH. You got into that like comfort zone, like, oh, that's not that much money, but you were like, oh, that's not that much, but it was a few $100s, right? Mm-hmm. It's totally a different level with Bitcoin, right? Where it's like, I mean, it's the same thing, but just elevated to this like thing. It's like we're starting to get comfortable with these numbers at 0.1. It's only 0.1, and it's like, dude, that's a lot of money for most people.
Yeah. So the blue eyes and the green eye, or the blue eyes and the red eyes of Ordinal Maxi Biz, the floor of those is over 3 Bitcoin already. So I kind of think what's cool what he did is these are like inclusive of it. And from what my understanding, he has a private Discord. The goal is to get to 10K over time. Obviously, you can't just mint 10K on Ordinals. It's going to be quite expensive, which now he has the funds, but right, there's no smart contract to kind of bind them all together. So it was kind of unique. Right before that, there was the day before the Seize Control mint, which was the artist. I don't know if you didn't follow him that. He did, I think, like 404. I think it was 404 Ordinals on uncommon sets, I believe, which the floor of those is like 1,000 each. And he was getting a lot of fun. Our friend Businessman, who did a spaces with on Tuesday, has been after all of these events. He has been after it, mostly criticizing the pricing of it. So Seize Control is even higher. It's 0.15 mint per, and only sold 40%, I guess. I think he only sold like 150 out of the 400. And so Businessman was basically like saying, yeah, I told you, like it's way, 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 way too high.
Pricing can be hard. Like there's no easy way, right? It's hard. You're kind of judging your interest versus, the amount of money your potential holders have. So it's difficult. There's no doubt. Some people are going to get it wrong. The best number 0 in my view, always, because it's like, people are going to be interested at 0. But I see, dude, who wouldn't take a $7 million money grab, if you could do it.
Yeah, the mint today's free. Our boy Toyso. I don't know if you ever, or Toyso. He's doing the Bitcoin whales free mint.
Okay.
He exploded out of nowhere, dude. What's funny is during the whole Bitcoin punks mint, I actually had hopped on a call with him when his followers were like under 1,000. And he was explaining to me what Bitcoin whales is. I don't think he's actually explained what the utility is. So I was actually not on the mint. So it wasn't like a conflict of interest because he had shared me what they were doing like months before. It's a very unique project once he actually releases the details of what their plans are. But he literally, he was like 300 followers or something. Next thing I know, it's at 150,000. I was like, what happened here? But he did the whole, the marketing strategy. His thing was like, who wants to get wet? That was like the marketing pitch to get on the allow list.
Right.
Today's the free mint. I was listening to it right before this. They used Gamma. It seems like everyone who uses Gamma has no issues with mints. That was the OCM Dimensions did theirs there. Mm-hmm. The Bitcoin Whales is doing theirs there. Seems like Gamma is like a place to go if you want to do some drops. Probably because they're just like a much more experienced team than any of these other ones.
Sure. Yeah, it's awesome.
And then Bitcoin miners is on Sunday. I actually got on a call with them yesterday. The businessman again was at Ordinal police after them. They were supposed to have their mint on last Sunday, and they were using BitGo as like the payment processor, and immediately when it was live, BitGo went down instantly. So they had built their own component. They're doing kind of something very similar to what OCM does. They have 256 is what their like Genesis miners, and then they have I think they're capping it like a few thousand afterwards. It's like the second collection. It's like the same model. You buy it, and so for this you could buy up to 3. I think it's 0.007. So like I don't know, $100 or something like that for each for and then you could pay. You could buy 3 for about $300 or 256. I think is what it is, and then you get into the raffle for theirs. And these guys were interesting. They've been mining Bitcoin since 2010, or at least that's what they claim. And the strategy around it is to kind of resemble some of the Bitcoin kind of game theory and some of the mechanics on it. So that'll be interesting. I'm on the allow list or pick list. They actually were the first to do kind of the gimmicks with Ordinals on ord.io, where they did it was like an interactive pick list registration on an Ordinal, and they pushed it to the top of ord.io.
Gotcha.
And it seemed like everyone started copying them right afterwards.
So what do we learn, like knowing that we've all been through the 21 cycle? What are like the key takeaways if, any of the people listening right now are, trying to trade these things, looking back on 2021, what would be your like top 2 takeaways?
This is going much higher.
Okay.
This is going much higher. There's definitely, I think right now, personally, I think it's kind of like a local top. It reminds me a lot of that like very first kind of push within the NFTs, like right after Apes minted, and kind of had that initial push, right? You could, if you compare, I guess OMB would be, I guess, the equivalent, at least in terms of like value. Right. Yep. Them and I think OCM are probably like the top 2 collections if I had to, guess or say. But
and I'm an OCM holder. I was part of that 300 dimensions thing. So full disclosure there.
Full disclosure, yeah.
Full disclosure. My bag is one OCM. It's like I would see. The thing is, like I love Danny so much that I can't sell it. You know what I mean? Even if the thing, I mean, I was tempted when it was like first started at a Bitcoin. I was like, geez, it would be nice to have another Bitcoin. But still, it's like most of my PFPs that I like won't sell are just because they're connections with friends, right? And so it's like I'm probably never going to sell that one.
Yeah. I guess to go back to that, one other takeaway from this, from what I've seen with the Ordinal space, is the rotations happen quite fast and from the sectors. So it'll go from like the PFPs, or like when I say Ordinals, I just mean kind of like the NFTs version of it. It'll go from like the NFTs to BRC-20s, and then from there it'll go to like the metaverse kind of thing, or it'll go to art. But it seems like these rotations happen in like 1 to 2 week spurts.
Yeah.
And then you'll see kind of like maybe like a month prolonged of like a correction, I guess. I think it's going to move over to BRC-20s here pretty shortly. They're just getting absolutely hammered right now.
Are they?
I think OXBT is down like 95% or something like that. I mean, Ordi is down to like $5. It was at over 30 at one point. So, it feels like this, accumulation period is coming pretty well. And we're starting to see more stuff happen. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, if I look back on 21 and think of all that summer, my recommendation is to do what you just did, right? Which is like, if you see a pump of something, you sell and you take money off the table, any opportunity you can. And obviously, if everybody does that, it's all over, right? But you have to be strategic as an individual. And when you see things moving and, the FOMO is in full swing, that is the time to take some money off the table. And if you hold multiples, you can keep 1 or 2, you can keep whatever, but take money off the table. That's simple as that. Like, there is zero harm. There's zero wrong with that. And yeah, that's the advice I give people.
Yeah, and we're also still in a bear market, right?
Oh, big time, dude. Big
Forget
time.
about that. I found my policy now is being through the space is if I find something up multiples like 3-4x, and I find myself keep checking the price, then I should probably sell it and come back later, right? Especially when you sell it. Yeah, you're breaking up there for a second. Especially when you sell it and then you keep coming back and checking even after you sold it. That's the time to like close the laptop and just go touch grass. Go touch grass. Yeah. Go ahead, Ethord.
What's going on? Good morning, everyone.
GM.
Yeah, couldn't agree with that more, especially the last points you were saying. It's the more you're checking the price every day, the more it's hard, human nature, but it's best you don't have to fully decommit out. And to be honest, once you sell, if it goes down, it's hard to get back in too, because then all of a sudden nobody wants it, so you don't want it anymore either, and you're maybe happy you sold. But more importantly, this is not a bull market, so it's hard to compare it to 2021. We're seeing these quick surges, which is actually fascinating. I was around last cycle and everyone just forgot about stuff in general. And we could equate this year to maybe 2019 and try to keep remembering it's a long year and a half. If we're gonna follow the same sort of structure and up only again, it's gonna be another year and a half from here. And 2019 was this long forgotten period where, for me at least, I stopped checking the price. I just kind of focused on other things and moved on for a little bit. And then come 2020, I remember the big crash when all stocks and crypto crashed, and that's when I started paying attention to everything again, just seeing how quickly it all went down in a second. And it's the same sort of thing here. We got a long ways to go, and I would highly recommend, if something pumps, they're pumping quickly. So try to get on that while you can.
Yeah, it is a very, very interesting time. My question is, and I'll just leave it at this, is at what point is the rotation from Bitcoin back to Ethereum happen? That's something I've been trying to consider. I don't think we're close to that yet, but at some point there'll be a time where everyone says Ethereum's dead and Bitcoin is just absolutely surging. And that's the time to probably move back over, because Ethereum's not going anywhere.
I mean, if you think about like the wins that are in crypto's face right now is pretty substantial, at least in the US. I almost think it's amazing that we're having this kind of like micro bull run. Obviously, thanks to Ordinals, right? The Ordinals idea is so powerful on Bitcoin that it's woken up this whole kind of little sector of on-chain provenance and all this sort of stuff. But it's amazing because the wins are substantially against crypto right now. So it is amazing to see this like micro run with, the 3,000 of us who are in crypto Twitter right now. I mean, dude, it's like, you see it, right? You don't need to, all you got to do is check. I don't know, if you're in the historical NFT space, go check some Discords, man. It's Ghost Town City, right? This is like the CryptoPunks Discord in, 2019. Like there's 10 of us here, right? So it's interesting to see when you have this kind of liquidity still available, for a mint to mint out, $30 million with Azuki, $7 million, with Domo, or sorry, with Nullish and ZK. And like, there's still, even though it's a small group of people, it's still people with a heck of a lot of money. It's incredible.
Absolutely incredible. But speaking about incredible things, the first one we'll talk about is the BRC-20. I know a lot of people have really been asking a lot of questions. I saw Good was in the crowd. I recorded a podcast with him. He was interested in this, so he'll have to come back to this. BRC-20s, right? We talked about this last week. Felt like no one listened. Even BitGod tweeted it. Felt like people were cool. And then all of a sudden, he's tweeting more that it's coming. And everyone's like, wait, what? The project? You're doing a BRC-20? Like, bro, we've been talking about this. Adam, I usually explain this. How about you take this turn? Define what the BRC-20 curated collection is and what do you expect from it?
Sure. I mean, you've seen a couple of BRC-20s try to make the move to Ethereum already, and they're using traditional bridging, right? Where you send your BRC-20 basically to a wallet on Bitcoin, and they mint brand new ERC-20s on the other side on Ethereum, right? We all know about bridges. We all know the problems with bridges. And of course, Emblem, our team, this is what we do. We're not big on bridges. We are not fans of bridges. We know all the problems with bridges. And so our solution, where you're sending your BRC-20 to your own wallet that you control, as an ERC, token or NFT on Ethereum, that provides a level of ownership that you have control over, right? Which we believe is far superior to bridges. And so, yeah, we're working with both the OXBT and Ordi teams, and we're going to launch these products, which are going to allow all sorts of use cases that we know and love on Ethereum. The principal one is Blur, right? Blur farming, the way people use Blur. It's super excited. I mean, I'm super excited about it to see how the Ethereum marketplace reacts to this, right? How are they going to look at, tokens from Bitcoin as an opportunity to trade, to farm, and do all the rest of it with, right? So basically our product, people are going to have the opportunity to send in an exact amount of BRC-20. And basically, because it's an exact amount, it's just going to provide very easy liquidity on Blur and these different platforms and stuff. And I mean, we're already in talks with people to allow, loans against these things and all this sort of stuff. And so all these things that require smart contracts that live on Ethereum that's already built, basically we're taking the BRC-20 token, bring it over to Ethereum and allow those tokens to have the same level of use cases and, marketplaces and trading platforms and liquidity. It's all available to them. And I do believe this is going to be built out on Bitcoin, but this stuff could be years away from being fully built on Bitcoin. It may not even be possible on L1 Bitcoin, right? It's going to probably be on an L2 Bitcoin. But it's possible right now on Ethereum, and we're just allowing it to happen. And super excited about it. It's going to be fun to watch, bro. I mean, it's going to be fun to watch, to see how the Ethereum people react to this. It's going to be interesting, man.
The conversations between Domo and BitGod are similar, but there's some distinct interest in it. For Domo, right, as the creator of BRC-20, for him, he's really excited that he gets to show his creation to Ethereum.
100%.
Right. There's probably, and as you're talking about or discussing about BRC-20, probably to L2, Domo got an advisory role with an L2 on Bitcoin, right? If that doesn't show where the direction of it's going, then that's kind of, the progress. And Domo's open to Ethereum. He knows some of the issues that exist, but for him, getting BRC-20 exposure on Blur and on OpenSea, which captures probably 90% of the eyeballs in the NFT sector, is huge, absolutely huge. And for BitGod and the OXB team, they're in experimentation mode. They're a team, right? Domo did the decentralized mint, so he doesn't even have a large treasury because it was very similar to Bitcoin. And Ordi is now, I think it's 70% of the market cap, maybe even more, of BRC-20s. And it's more just a reserve of BRC-20. I would say Ordi is very similar to what Bitcoin is to the rest of the sector. It's just it's just a place to store value. OXBT is an actual team, right? They held back about 10% of the supply, plus or minus a few percent. And they're experimenting. They're talking with OKX. They've put some of the token into the Alex bridge, right? They're trading natively. They're doing these these auctions with OXBT for these NFTs. They're open experimentation. They have a large DGOD community who's very familiar with how Ethereum works. He also mentioned that they're just talking with market makers and some of these other things. And for him, as the team, right, they also get a share of the royalties, and we get to create a more efficient market. First, there's no buyer's fee for this at all. And what that means is that if you go to Magic Eden and you buy BRC-20, there's a 2% buyer's fee on that. So there's no buyer's fee on OpenSea or on Blur. We have a 1.5% royalty, which we're making standard across. Our standard for Ordinals is 2.5% for the NFT version. 1.5% to help it trade or make it feel similar to fungible tokens, and to stay competitive with the rates. I believe Ordinals wallet's 2%, Unisat's 1.7%. I think they're all kind of around that range, so we're keeping that very competitive. because Blur also has no marketplace fee. So it's just straight 1.5%. OpenSea has a 2.5% fee. So you'd be trading 4% versus 1.5%. There's no requirement for transfer inscription. What does that mean, right? If you've traded native BRC-20, you have to write a transfer inscription for the amount that you want. And at some point, if you want to cancel it, then you have to write it. If you cancel that listing, you got to write another one. So it's going to take 10 minutes to even just, say you want to sell something. So it just makes for a very inefficient market here, because the BRC-20 sit inside of a Taproot wallet that's inside of an NFT. The NFT is the thing that's traveling, the ERC-721. So you get this more efficient market. And since everything is the same, since all the values are the same, there's no type of manipulative listing behavior to where somebody overprices something because they're hoping the Blur farmers just like bid wall into it. It's all the same. And one of the main issues you see with the NFT space that they complain about a lot is they say that Blur has turned NFTs into fungible tokens. Well, here we have NFTs again, which I guess they technically are NFTs on Bitcoin, but they trade like fungible tokens. Here we get to actually test it out. Are these fungible tokens or are these NFTs? I think that's kind of like the big aha moment to see how it goes from here. But my favorite part as well is that a lot of these ETH whales, regardless of the Blur farmers, there is a large amount of users on ETH who just don't want to go through the learning experience of Bitcoin. It's clunky, right? For them, it's a downgrade because the infrastructure is minimal, 10-minute block times versus 2.5-second block times on Ethereum. But to just have it presented in front of them to say, hey, here's some BRC-20 exposure, you could go buy this right now, then I think that's very appealing for some of them. So the numbers here's the numbers. So it'll be 2,000 OXBT per vault and 200 ORDI. So 2,000 OXBT at, I think it's at 6 cents now, 7 cents, right? It's about $150 or so. 200 ORDI at $5 is, right, it's $1,000. So about half an ETH and about, what is that, 0.1 ETH or 0.08 ETH for those. So that will be it. And this type of opportunity.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the cat hitting the crickets. My cat's on my soundboard, man.
You got dogs, pigs, cats.
I got dogs. I got cats, bro. Look at this fine feline. Look at that.
Oh man, that is a big kitty. The last thing is this will bring a lot of arbitrage opportunities, right? Because Ethereum trades more efficiently than NFT marketplaces do. The volatility and price movement will flow much faster than the 10-minute block times that have been on Bitcoin. So you'll probably see, this is just my speculation or my guess, you'll probably see the Ethereum price run away from Bitcoin. So then people probably unvault and then go back to Bitcoin to sell it. And they'll probably go back and forth between them. But it'll be a fun experience. We're going to launch those two first. I think I lost Adam for a second, so it'll be just me talking for a second. We're going to launch these two next week. Look for an announcement from Domo and BitGodds on Monday. So look for that. And you'll follow along with all the festivities for next week. Just be very, very ready for that. We've actually gotten a large amount of requests as well for BRC-20s from other creators. And there's a lot of unique prospects to it, as Adam kind of teased already. Some of the financialized NFT platforms have reached out to us to explore what BRC-20 NFTs can do on Ethereum. And go ahead, Dogfather.
Man, I would really love to know about your listing requirements on Emblem Vault. I mean, this is a really hard decision. Now you're like Coinbase deciding on which coin to launch next. So that's really exciting, man.
Yeah. So Emblem will never charge, at least in this current position now. We're not charging a listing fee for anybody. We're sharing royalties. We also make some revenue off of vault sales. So we're not trying to take that Binance route, right? Unless things get like absolutely crazy where we're kind of forced to in that position. We want to make this a frictionless experience. So we present to them, and if there are any BRC-20 creators here, the main questions are like, how large is your treasury? Do you want to put up some of the initial liquidity in the beginning? What is your objectives? Do you have a kind of a cross-chain community? For example, there was one BRC-20 creator that has an ETH and a Bitcoin collection. So they have Ordinals and ETH NFTs, and they also have a BRC-20. So for them, vaulting BRC-20s, they said is appealing because now they can kind of they can be integrated within both communities to go back and forth, right? Like a multi-chain community. And the number or the amount that you want. We try to, and Adam emphasizes this a lot, make it a very round number for whatever the answer is. Simple as possible. My suggestion,
I like easy numbers, man. Small brain, easy numbers.
my initial suggestion was 210 Ordi, and the reason why was because it would make it a possibility of 100,000 vaults, right? So with OXB2 2000 out of 200 million, you can have 100,000 possible vaults. And from our experience, at least from what we've seen so far, vault penetration from collections is anywhere between like 10% to 50%. 50% being mostly just the punk derivatives who come to use Emblem to trade on OpenSea. And then some are the lower ones for some of the more like liquid. You know, this could just be completely different where this is the new paradigm and people end up vaulting, 60, 70% of that collection. So it's really to be determined. But also think about that number that they want. Like, what is the maximum amount of total supply as a BRC-20 creator would you like? Would you like a max supply of 100,000 vaults, 200,000 vaults, 50,000 vaults? And so from there, you got to think about that number. And then we ask them as well about what their image. We want them to create their OpenSea page. I mean, if they don't want to, then we will do it for them. But we, Emblem Vault, we're the curators of this, but we don't want to be like, the sole arbiter of truth for this. This is everyone's collections, like kind of just like, I guess maybe some alpha, but down the road, like the goal is to, share these ownerships. The intermediary would be shared ownership over your curated collection, and then eventually transition it to ownership over the creator of that contract. We don't want to have keys to all this stuff, right? You know how much of a pain in the ass that is. It's a lot of responsibility, but we have to get there over time. It's kind of the idea. So I hope that answered some questions.
Yeah. And I apologize for my cat. She's been now fired as my production assistant. Not only did she step on the cricket and drum button on my board, but somehow she magically reset my StreamYard thing. So I had to like all my settings on StreamYard were messed up too, man. I had to like reset the whole thing. So that was awesome, bro. So live on the fly. But anyway, yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch, and hopefully it's successful. Obviously for us, we have a big stake in it being successful. And I think if it is, this opens this whole world of, accessing cross-chain liquidity, which hasn't really been done effectively. And I think it's exciting to be a part of that, to play in these early games of like how people are going to access different chains, with different assets. So it's going to be awesome, man.
Yeah, and for those in the crowd, I just pinned this Twitter Spaces to the top. Make sure you give it a retweet so people can see all the fun stuff happening. And also, let me know in the replies, right, bottom right button, that's purple, which BRC-20s would you like to see on Ethereum? We've had requests, but we're also I'll actively reach out to individuals. So if you're, a bag holder of a BRC-20 or something you'd like to see, please let me know in the replies below, and we can kind of dive into the whole entire idea. Actually, this is kind of a good time. I wanted to bring up this recent topic of bitmap, which there's somebody here on stage, so it's kind of good timing. I believe yesterday was what they're calling the blockout, which means that all 800,000 of the bitmaps, the block representations, had been inscribed already. And I'm going to be honest, I had somebody somebody messaged me yesterday. They're like, "Are you excited for the blockout?" And I was like, "What?" Blockout? I was like, what is that? And I was like, I kept seeing people talk about it, but and I didn't realize it meant like mint out, right? Or inscribe out. They're like blockout. It's like, I know what a blackout is, but blockout. So who is this? Bitmap Meta. Do you want to give us a little bit of explanation to the blockout and how the how everything's been in the bitmap universe over the last 2 weeks. Or unless you're just engagement farming me.
I'm sorry, I'm today just as a listener here. I'm gaming the next time.
All right. Look at that engagement farming. You're banned.
Engagement. Get out of here.
Get
Sorry.
out.
Go ahead, Dogfather, and also hello, Peaches. I'm calling you afterwards.
Yeah, I think I can step in here a bit. So I'm not very deep in this bitmap thing, but at least I was digging into some data, and I was using the bitmap inscriptions to learn about how to run an indexer and stuff like that. So I had a look in the data, and was also recently posting the distribution of all inscriptions over time. So basically that just began very just in June with a handful of inscriptions, and then this was really picking up, let's say like 2 weeks ago, and then within a few days there was a huge peak with almost 100,000 of these bitmap inscriptions, which is like pretty massive, I would say. And then it was leveling down to maybe 50,000 a day, and then in the last 2 days they were basically inscribing all of those that were left. So what is a bitmap inscription? It is basically just a number, let's say 1.bitmap. That would be the first, that represents the first Bitcoin block. And then it goes 2 dot and so on until, the current block size. So basically every 10 minutes, there's a new bitmap that you can basically inscribe. You can already anticipate, obviously, and say, I'm already inscribing the next 100 or so. And then, as always, first come first. So if you were the first inscribing 1 dot bitmap, just as a text inscription, you are basically the holder of the Holy Grail, right? And I was first not very impressed because I thought, okay, we can do that with, sats domains or any other. But I think the dev team made a very good job in presenting that in a very nice visual way with all these blocks, and then the story to build some metaverse on top of these blocks. So on your block you can later build something like a city or a shop or a gallery, whatnot. I mean, metaverse is very versatile, and I think that was very convincing to the community. And so it was minting out all these bitmaps just for free mint, and I think it's pretty impressive, because we have almost 800,000 blocks that were minted, plus a bunch of tags and minus blocks and a hash in the block. So people were doing all kind of crazy things. But the real kind of bitmap collection is just the numbers ranging from 1 to now close to 790 and 7,000, and that's basically the bitmaps.
Yeah, I pulled up here. This is called Bitfeed, which I believe is the live feed of Bitmap. So the latest block, 796,586. And so for those that don't know what Bitmap is, the simple explanation is that you can essentially own a block, and it's called bitmap theory, right? Just like ordinal theory. And so if you abide by the theory, each block can then be built out as its own metaverse, but then all the blocks are kind of grouped together as the larger metaverse, right? That's why it's called the bitmap. And it's actually received a lot of FUD for a handful of reasons. Some people are kind of comparing it to the Bloot of Bitcoin, where Bloot, right, it was on Ethereum. Whereas basically these people said, this team said, hey, we're going to make traits for you, and then here's the traits, and you just go build it out. And essentially no one ever built it out.
Yeah, nobody built anything, dude.
Nobody built anything. So that a lot of the FUD here was, I think it was actually sparked by Ordinals wallet. They built out and I'll pull it up here in a second. They built out a bitmap tool so you can easily inscribe, which was a genius thing to do from a business perspective. But there was frustration that they're saying they're facilitating, the use of this. They're just kind of like gouging their users for the inscription fees so that they could profit off of this, knowing well that no one's going to actually build this out. And it seems like there's actually been a decent community who's popped up so far. But I want to call him Patches. I know Patches has been kind of following this for a little bit, and also GM.
Patches muted.
Yeah, sorry, I'm on my bike, so I had to get my phone out of my pocket. Yeah, bitmaps is a really crazy cool thing. Just like BRC-20, like the tech isn't, from a technology standpoint, so where I approach things, it's not great. Like just a string being inscribed, it's not even in a JSON protocol. Like at least BRC-20 had that. But from a mass adoption standpoint, it clearly caught the imagination of the entire ordinal space. Like, say what you want, 800,000 inscriptions is a lot for this idea. And in my discussions, I'm already talking with people not on ordinals at all who have real metaverse projects who scooped up bitmaps to see how they work. So I would say that the mass adoption first that works in ordinals is why these things take off, because initially for metaverse, the biggest problem is getting adoption of people to care about your NFTs, and then to have a base structure around how the mint should go and how you determine attributes. It's like the hardest part. And what people liked about bitmap theory is that all of that is kind of taken care of, where it's okay, it's a free open mint, so it's a platform, it's not a corporation that's going to dictate what happens on this. The second is that it's tied to blocks. So there's transactions in the blocks, there's the head numbers, there's like certain data that will never change, always immutable, that you can use as if you're going to do any, let's say, auto generation based on attributes. You use the block height attribute or something, and then again, there's a community around it of like 15 to 20,000 people who are engaged with what this could mean for metaverse. So, in any real, like situation, I would say this is not sustainable because it's just an idea that is being, front ran by minting without any, context to what's going to come. But that's like, I just described ordinals, right? That's how this whole space is upside down, which is why I love it. So what we saw is mass adoption of a standard. That standard ties to set variables that can't change. So only Bitcoin is writing the rules. And then how people interact with those things, you have 800,000 in practice out and about. So you can use everyone's inscription that they have to interact with your metaverse if you choose to dev on it. So really weird, not the best tech, but has a lot of excitement, and there is a lot of stuff you can do for it, and it does solve problems for gaming and metaverse of mass adoption of NFTs and delineation of variables for auto generation of assets or traits.
It is quite unique. So here's some stats. So I'm on ordinalswallet.com. There's 808,000 supply. Actually, I'm not sure how it's actually that many when there's only 798,000 blocks. But besides that, 16,747 owners and 21,000 listed and 3,000 that are for sale. And it looks like there's pretty active sales with half a Bitcoin in volume today. There was an interesting question that I'd saw, and maybe I'll hear Adam's opinion on this. The idea of buying future blocks. Should future blocks be sold almost like a futures product? I kind of teased out a tweet about this yesterday. It seemed like there was kind of some community divide around this, because now the only way to inscribe a block now from Bitmap is it's basically a race every 10 minutes. So will the community decide on social consensus to create a Bitmap futures product, or is the best thing to just sit around and wait every 10 minutes to buy these plots of land?
Okay, there are so many issues with this one. There's so many issues with this. Multiple, and I agree, and I understand we are in a bit of an upside down world. That's for sure. And coming up with protocols before they really have use cases and stuff. And I'm not gonna super FUD on it, but there are a couple things that, living through the previous metaverse cycle on Ethereum, and it's pretty clear as day. There are a couple things. First of all, metaverse land is infinite, right? So creating artificial scarcity, which this in theory does, is fine. That's what people do. And whether or not this is adopted and then has value, that's one thing. That's one, FUD thing, just to take the opposite side. Obviously, it's a huge supply, 800,000 of anything. We've seen Mooncats, 25,000 is a huge supply for a PFP collection. We know that, or for an NFT collection. For a metaverse collection, I mean, I was giving Yuga extreme FUD at whatever they were going to do, 200,000 or whatever. Crazy FUD for them, because how do you create scarcity with 200,000, right? When there's 200,000 of any Pokemon card, that card is basically worthless. It's really, really difficult to create scarcity and value at huge numbers. So that's just kind of rough first things. Second things, we've seen right now, the idea of like immersive metaverses, obviously this is a trillion million miles away from immersive metaverse, but even the idea of selling land into a metaverse, you know, maybe the tables turn, but we literally played this game in 2021, and turns out we're way too early for immersive metaverses. Like, go in Sandbox, there's 2 people in Sandbox right now, the founder and the CTO. Like, nobody else is in Sandbox right now. It's just not, right? I mean, other metaverses that are good, you know, Fortnite, Roblox, GTA, you know, those are centrally controlled metaverses, right? We haven't figured out the decentralized one that is attractive enough to actually attract people. So I would just, you know, metaverse, pump the brakes. It's worth exactly what it is, which is right now for Bitmap, which is basically it's worth free. You know,
it was $2 to inscribe.
Okay, yeah. So that's basically, it's worth a shot. But don't think that these are going to suddenly be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Like, do not FOMO into these things on secondary, guys. This is like just head on a swivel. That's Adam's take. Could be wrong, has been wrong in the past, but that's my view looking back on 2021.
All right, Patches, it sounds like you're eager. What's going on over there?
Yeah, that's a really base take. Don't buy anything thinking there's value before anything's built. That's not even just crypto. That's just in life. Someone said, "I built you a house, pay me," and there's nothing there. You gotta look at that closer. The front running thing, I think, is actually really, really fun, because like it's 2 theories colliding with each other, right? So in one, if you just look at bitmap theory, not being able to mint a block before it's been mined makes 100% of sense. It's like, yeah, how would you own a piece of land when that land doesn't exist yet, as the transaction height and other variables you're going to look at? That's fair. The problem is it's an anti-pattern to how ordinals work, which is first is first. And so when you have a theory on top of a theory, and the second one requires the technology, which is the indexing, to survive and understand what's happening, you're essentially fragmenting all of indexing. Because now you're saying, well, first is first, unless it's a bitmap. Then it's first after the block height, like after the block is mined. So as an indexer, you have to look at the bitmap, then you have to look at the block height, and then you have to make sure that there wasn't a bitmap between that one that was minted that's trying to use it and the block height being, block being mined. It's got to cause fragmentation and horrible user experience. And so if futures don't become a thing, I think that's got to really cripple bitmap's adoption, because any indexer that wants to support it has to customize their own. We already have fragmentation of indexing. It's all centralized by different people. It's not great. We need some protocol that brings that all together. So it's causing way more of a problem from technology trying to hold it up. And I think if bitmaps don't adopt futures theory, where you can own a future block, it's going to cap its ability to actually be adopted in mass by all indexers. So I would say be wary about that if you're a bitmap enthusiast.
If I was a Bitcoin mining company, I would be racing right now to put out an Ordinals future product. The ability to sell your future mined, some of your future mined sats from the Bitcoin that you're rewarded, is just a huge multi-billion-dollar market. So somebody's got to figure this out. I hope so. But Dogfather, I saw your hand up. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm completely with Patches. I mean, in real estate, you can also own the right to build something, or you just own the land and don't build yet. I mean, I don't think this is a very good reason, to make it more complicated. I mean, if people want to speculate on a certain future block, I mean, let them have fun. I mean, who cares? I mean, you could have because you're running the index and you're kind of managing the metaverse. You can say, okay, you can only build after the block is actually, you know, in the books, so to say, in the ledger. And before it's just kind of vacant, but there's already an owner, right? So this owner has the right to build something on it in the future. And I think that should be a good compromise.
Bitmap's going to need a few more social layers before they extend. There's probably I would assume a foundation is probably going to have to be created of some sort. I feel like some of the Bitcoin mining companies will need to come in and start making some claim to this as well. Because if not, I'm about to spin up a futures house. I'm about to spin up CBRE right now of Bitmap, and then I'm just going to be the leader of it. So
I do want to say, like, I'm getting reached out to by real companies that have real money that are building, you know, real metaverse tech, interested in Bitmap. So that's the craziest, strongest arm of Ordinals is mass adoption first and get eyes on it and get interest. And if you can gain the interest of developers, like Steve Ballmer's GIF had it right? Devs. So the excitement of Ordinals brings engineers like me here. And then if you can maintain good developer thought leadership and engineers coming into play in the kind of mass adopted thought experiments, I think that is the winning structure. That's what BRC-20 saw. We're already seeing it with like Ord and Ord Wallet and Unisat, these marketplaces that see the potential. And I think that will just exponentially escalate if it is maintained in a way that doesn't make it almost impossible for a dev to come in because everything's so fragmented. It's like, how do I even get started over here? It's too much. I'm going to stay on the chain on that.
There are probably some really smart real estate companies because when you think about how tech operates, those who are out on the farthest curve, right? Like Mark Zuckerberg's move fast and break things. That's where the most opportunity is. That's where you become massively wealthy. When you're out that far, you're also the one who's dictating the rules. And as Bitcoin's not Turing complete, there's no smart contracts. You get to decide what's the social consensus, right? So, right, the vultures are going to come and they're going to decide on it. So it's a huge opportunity for those who are probably playing in that space.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And eyeballs and attention and bringing in development is far more likely to win. So y'all can ignore my FUD if you will, but that's just my take based on experience. But like I've been wrong many, many times. I could be wrong here again.
Well, we've learned through historical NFTs, right? It's never the first iteration of something that ever works, or at least the first iteration is generally, at least when it comes to NFTs, the first iteration is never the winner. It's usually the second or third iteration of something is usually where it wins. So
yeah, and to give Bitmap a positive spin here, even with my maybe negative outlook on maybe buying a Bitmap or something. If it gets enough social consensus adoption now, when time actually makes it the right time to actually build stuff around it, and it already has that social consensus, it could still be a winner, right? That just might not be this year.
Yeah, I agree as well. So moving on, Emblem had a huge announcement today. And we're moving the legacy contract, right? This is going to be a long discussion. And so I encourage everyone who has questions to come on stage. But first, we're going to have Hoarder's Corner. So
yeah, let's do Hoarder's Corner, man. Let's
do Hoarder's Corner first, and then we're going to save the lengthy discussion afterwards if it is a lengthy one. So I'm handing it over to you, bud.
What's going on, people? I'm excited about this week. I am a avid movie buff, and we're going to do movie posters this week.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I don't know much about the history of movie posters, and I was thinking about just skipping over that, but I did some research, and as always, I find something and it intrigues me, and I hope there's at least one of you degens out there that it intrigues as well. So yeah, the movie posters have a rich history that dates back to the late 1900s, when the Lumiere brothers started showcasing their films. Another interesting fact, the word Lumiere in French actually means light, which is very apropos, considering they were shining light through film to make these movies. The first movie poster is believed to be the French film The Serpent in 1895, designed by Jules Charest. early movie posters were typically text heavy, but by the early 20th century, the art of movie poster design began to flourish. Posters shifted their style to become more of a visual representation for the themes and subject matter of the films, not to mention the advent of color printing in the 1920s also added to what artists could do. And I think that this is really what changed movie posters and the collectability of it. It's not just some giant text saying, watch this movie, here's the actor, director, whatever. Now you get something that you can actually, like an iconic symbol that you can put on your wall and be proud of.
This is a pretty good. It's a pretty good movie poster. I got it pulled up here on YouTube. Very colorful. Presents actually like what a movie looks like, which probably back in 1895.
You had to teach people, man.
Like
You will sit down and you will watch a show in front of you on a magic screen.
Right. That's a cool one. I'm not gonna lie. That's you know, I could see that framed. I could sport that in my office for sure. Right. Especially because Lumiere brothers. We wouldn't be where we're at without them. But yeah, so movie posters are not just marketing tools. They have become works of art that reflect the essence and cultural significance of films. In recent years, movie posters have become highly collectible with rare and iconic examples commanding high prices at auction. So without further ado, we're going to do things a little differently this time. Let me see who's up on stage. Good. We got a couple speakers as well. I would like anyone to throw out some ideas, Family Feud style. Hopefully Jake didn't cheat.
I did not cheat this time. I did not cheat this time.
This time.
So there are, I have a list of 12 of the most valuable movie posters. We'll go over the prices of the top ones. Some of them are the same movie over again. So I want to hear, what do you guys think are the most coveted movie posters of all time as far as
my first goes to like Wizard of Oz. That would be like oh my god.
I would say Titanic would be my first guess.
Titanic is not on there as well.
Wow.
But Adam is on the right track. I'm going to give you guys a nice hint here. There are no recent movies. There's not even Star Wars on here. Everything is super old school movies, but iconic.
Casablanca.
Ding ding. We got two Casablanca sales on this list.
Cool.
I am horrible when it comes to movies. I don't know.
I think I heard The Thing in there.
Yeah, I said The Thing.
The Thing is not on here, but you are on the right track for most of these.
Ooh, so that means maybe like what would be one like that? I'm thinking what's the one with the green slime or whatever, you know? Oh jeez. I don't know. Don't show us, Jake. Jake's pulling it up now.
Just one. This is just one out of 12.
Yeah, I was thinking Rosebud, whatever the movie that is.
Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane
also not on here. But The Thing is a horror movie from, I believe, the 30s or something. What other horror movies from the 30s came
out? Ooh, from the
what about 30s? The one with the dude yells Stella? Streetcar Named Desire?
That's not on here either.
Bro, you made this so hard, dude.
Someone's gonna. Okay, so The Thing came out. I think it's a Universal Monsters movie. What other Universal?
What about what's the one
From the Moon?
Oh, that one, yeah. From the Moon. That's that old movie, one of the first movies, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a Lumiere movie, right? The one that Smashing Pumpkins did kind of an ode to.
I was thinking Frankenstein as well. Frankenstein, maybe.
There we go. Frankenstein is definitely on here. It sold for 180.
Oh, Dracula, right?
Dracula is on here twice. See, now I knew once this went, we'd get them. Dracula's on here twice. One of the sales, 279 ETH, which is 525,000. The other one, 312,000, 166 ETH.
That's how much I get for guessing it.
All right, let's go through the list, man. Give us the top 10.
Go.
Okay, so we got Casablanca is on here twice. Dracula's on here twice. Frankenstein, King Kong, London After Midnight. Not as familiar of a movie as that. The Grail. I'm gonna skip that until the end. Black Cat is on here. Bride of Frankenstein and The Mummy. So these are pretty much all movies from the 1930s. That's the golden age, I guess. of movie poster Hollywood, and that's what everyone wants. But the highest sale of all time is Metropolis, the 1927 German film. If you haven't seen it, black and white silent film, it's fantastic. Watch it in every film class. So 2 sales. There's 2 versions. There's the German text and sepia colored poster. Now, if you're on YouTube, there is a link so you can show what these look like. But the that one has sold for $357,000, which is 190 ETH. That one's all well and dandy, but that's not the one everyone wants. The one everyone wants is the international version, which sold for $690,000. That's 366 ETH. Now, why? Why does everyone want this goddamn poster? There are only 4 known surviving copies of this specific version of Metropolis. The sci-fi dystopian film, which was at the time one of the most expensive movies ever made, is considered groundbreaking for its use of special effects. Leonardo DiCaprio owns 1 copy. 1 copy is owned by the Museum of Modern Art. The 3rd copy is owned by the Austrian National Library and Museum. And the 4th one is this one that went for auction, which is a funny story. It went for auction in the, I want to say like 2005, 2008, sometime around then, and it sold for $690,000. And then the guy who sold it ended up buying it back in 2012 for a package deal. So he sold it for $690,000, and then less than 10 years later, he bought it back for $1.2 million. But it was a part of a larger collection of other movie posters. It was obviously the coveted one of the collection.
Right.
So we can't say that this sold for $1.2 million. But yeah, those are the only 4 in existence, and this is the Holy Grail.
Go ahead, Roger.
What's going on, guys? Yeah, I kind of came into the conversation a little late, but I heard Casablanca, I heard Citizen Kane, and my ears just perked up. Is it strictly just 30s? Because I know like there's some really important films in the 50s. I would probably say The Seventh Seal is probably one of the most important films in cinema history. You guys have any intentions to include that as well, or
we're talking top 10 all-time movie poster sales?
So it's pretty clear that what's happened here is at the beginning, only a handful of these things were even printed, right? So obviously, as you hit the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the numbers just exponentially go up, right, in the number of printing. So like that one we just talked about, Metropolis, there are only 4 in existence. Probably never happened again, right? All these others, hundreds or thousands are printed, which vastly impacts
this was the early stages of movie posters, but it was right when they made the shift into the images, right? So these images are iconic, right? You can see the Frankenstein poster. It puts this image in your mind that you kind of already saw when you close your eyes. So they were just kind of revolutionary at the time, and obviously that being old, as we see with the first NFTs, right? They just have that aura. But I mean, I was looking at some other sales. Certainly, there's been 5-figure sales for Star Wars and some of the more iconic movies that came later. But it looks like if you have a top sale, it's going to be in 1930s, and most of them are those monster movies made by Universal.
Fantastic. Yeah, that was a good piece. Roger, I'm guessing you're a huge movie buff.
yeah, man. I grew up around movies, and then I got into the film industry as a VFX comper. I actually have the Belgium Casablanca poster. Casablanca is probably like top 3 movies for me of all time. But I was hearing movie posters, and I was hearing Casablanca and Citizen Kane. I was like, well, I got to get in here real quick. Citizen Kane pretty much changed cinema for forever. Just the way that things were shot, especially with the camera. But if you guys need a movie to check out and you haven't seen already, The Seven Seals, like one of the greatest films of all time. It's actually one of the most like iconic films. You have the man and the devil playing chess. I mean, everyone's seen that screen grab. But definitely look into it. But this is really cool. I definitely want to hear more about this project if possible. If you guys have anything pinned.
No, so what we do so our Friday show, right? Adam and I, we work at Emblem Vault, but the show emphasizes collecting, and so a lot of us here are all historical NFT collectors. That's where all of us on stage kind of started our NFT journey. We're all collectible and antique buffs. So one section every Friday, ETH Ethor dedicates, it's called Hoarder's Corner, and we go through, there's a specific topic of the week of collecting. And so this week was movie posters. Week before we did Sotheby's auction house. We've done, Pokemon cards and all kinds of different stuff.
Nice. Are you guys into collecting film cells at all?
Film cells?
Yeah.
I've heard of this though.
No.
I've heard about it in relation to
Disney,
Disney and doing, selling the film cells for Disney movies.
Yeah, that's highly profitable actually. I'm obviously depending on like the film, but like for instance, like Pulp Fiction, you have certain cells, iconic cells that are and secondary going for like low to like high 5 to low 6 figures. I got that Casablanca poster I just mentioned a little while ago, the Belgian one at I don't know if you guys are familiar with San Diego Comic-Con, SDCC, but yeah, I sniped it over there. I'm very, very much into collectibles, and I know you're talking about NFTs, and like pretty much for me, like NFTs is like very similar to like the comic book industry at this point, as far as like collectibles go. So yeah, it's definitely transferable. Love it.
Yeah, I think the thing that we love about NFTs is the transparency of supply and this sort of thing, which can get really difficult. Of course. Yeah, when you're talking about, I think the one we just talked about, the most valuable, movie poster, that they know there's 4 of them, right? That creates this incredible like compression of supply and then explosion of price, right? And it's actually like the exact opposite of what we were just talking about with Bitmap, right? It's 800,000. Yeah. Like, my first thing was like, well, that's a massive supply. And with massive supply, it's really difficult to move price, and how these all play together, I think work perfectly from a collectability standpoint for NFTs, because you have this transparency and you can actually find price discovery that's actually based on real supply. And we've talked about it a bunch, like with Pokemon cards and stuff, where these supplies are diffuse and nobody really knows what the supply is, how difficult these things are to value. We're basically guessing on, we're guessing supply, and just how difficult that is, and how NFTs just kind of solve that, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, very cool. So like instead of burning mechanism, burning the supply, you actually just burn the posters at the end of the day. There you go.
But Ethor now has another thing to look at, these these movie what is it called, movie slides or whatever. We can go down that rabbit hole.
They're the actual reels, right? The film reels?
Are they the real? No, they're the actual like individual, like they'll take like an individual like one shot from that movie, right, and make a slide out of it.
Oh no.
Are you talking to me? Or?
Yeah, Roger, the slides that you're talking about, those are individual images, right? It's not the entire reel of the movie.
Yeah. So as far as like the film cells go, just think of it as like a simple like screen grab. Like you pretty much just freeze the timing code at a particular shot. So like for instance, for Pulp Fiction, you have John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson's character pointing the guns right before they take down what's his name in that room when they're eating the burgers. Like that's one of the most like iconic shots, not only in Pulp Fiction, but like in cinema as well. It's just very much recognizable. You can just share it to anyone and be like, yeah, I know this movie's Pulp Fiction, or they'll name the director or the writer or whatever it may be, or the cinematographer, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, you just pretty much freeze the timing code at that point, and you just print it, or it's not printed. It's just pulled from the actual the film stock and sold separately. So yeah, I would love to see like projects, as far as like film projects, kind of get into that space as far as like raising capital for films. I don't know how it would translate directly with NFTs, but particularly have an NFT attached to a particular film cell, so you own the rights of that property at that point once the film has completed and has gone to distribution. So you would collect as a collector of that film cell, or of that particular that frame that's been frozen and presented on an NFT. It would be kind of cool to see holders collect lifelong royalties based off of film sales. I think there's an opportunity there for raising capital instead of going to venture.
Oops, sorry. Sorry
did you just rug everybody, bro?
I was trying to let Sultan on stage and I accidentally hit mute. It was like
Yeah,
it was like a weird right when I hit accept, he like hopped off stage and hopped back on. Sorry about
I think
you
just
ignited a followed or something.
no, there's
Sorry.
lots of opportunities around that, honestly. And I've seen a couple pop up, and people are trying to do that, tying in the physical, digital twins, all that sort of stuff is so exciting, especially from a collectability standpoint. And my gut is, in a decade from now, people are going to require the NFT kind of twin to go along with these, or you're just not going to be able to demand as much value, because with the digital twin, you actually know supply. You know that there aren't going to be, 50 others of these cells out there. There's only one. And so I think from the whole collector space, the digital twin to go along with these physical items is going to happen. It's already happening.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You got something to say, Sultan? Nothing. All right. Well, moving on then. Sorry, I got to boot you off stage for engagement farming. Moving on. Emblem Vault is also moving on, right? Or I should say migrating is a better word. Apparently last week, Adam and I had teased it, and I scared somebody with my exotic, exotic analogies. So I will try to be much more bland and straightforward during this explanation than trying to, add some sort of personality to it. Emblem Vault. All right, here we go. And if anybody has any questions during this, please hop on stage. We're more than welcome to answer everything. We tried to lay it out as best as possible in our press release that we put out today. So Adam and I joined the team in November, and during this conversation, the initial conversations of joining the team, we came to this view and this vision that, we wanted to help or shine light on historical NFTs, but like the bigger vision is to, facilitate NFT trading across blockchains. And since then, it's grown to even more. Now it's take NFTs and tie them into protocols and marketplaces across every chain, right? And it's just grown and accelerated much faster than we anticipated, right? So it's a good problem to have. And we have this legacy collection that was minted. It was deployed September 9th, 2020. And this was deployed at a time before a lot of these standards were created, a lot of the new infrastructure, the gas efficient stuff, and a lot of, the new features. And the collection has continued to balloon upwards to now 50,000 assets and 12,000 owners, which makes it the 48th largest contract on Ethereum and the 6th largest NFT collection in across the space. And so as this continues to grow, it lacks some of the functionality that Emblem Vault is looking for to further decentralize the product, to add sufficient features for the different blockchains that need different types of functionality, because it really is different across every chain that you go to. And so we've been kind of building up to this moment. We've been putting out, we have 40 plus different tutorials on our YouTube channel to help with showing you how to, create a vault, unlock a vault, verification, and so forth. We've built a lot of these relationships now with all of the different marketplaces, with the different protocols. And there was a point where we were working with Rare Stamp to add an integration about 2 weeks ago. And it kind of just was the point where we're like, all right, we have to do this migration now, or it's probably never going to happen. Because once you have this migration, now we're adding even more to the supply, and it's just become such a large endeavor that we basically had to tell them to pause the integration and that we were going to move forward with this. And man, what a coordinated effort this has been over the last few weeks. I have to say, like, the things that you guys don't see behind the scenes of getting in contact with OpenSea, getting in contact with LooksRare, getting in contact with the protocols, finding out what legacies, what legacy vaults are into what contracts, and right? How does the migration work? How do you present this to the community? Like covering everything to it. It's been quite a mission. We've been working on this very actively over the last few weeks. And so to put it short, I highly encourage everyone to look at the pinned post at the very beginning, even retweet it so that everyone can see it. Because if you own a legacy contract, then this affects you. And here, so I'm gonna kind of run through this PR. So some of the issues with the Emblem legacy contract: it's not upgradable, it's not gas efficient, inability to interact with new features. For example, we've heard this many times every week since I've joined. We want a decentralized Emblem Vault, right? We want an open source Emblem Vault. We want this. We want more decentralization. And so do we. We actually do too, right? Believe it or not, we want a decentralized Emblem Vault too. In order to get there, we need to have an upgradable contract. We need to have more state-of-the-art technology to do those kind of things. It's a scattered collection. If you go to Emblem Vault and you go look at 50,000 NFTs from 12 different blockchains, it is a mess. It's a mess, and we're very aware of that. It's the
best tagging system in the world does not fix that. Simply put. I mean, just to jump over it a little bit here, Jake, for you, for anybody who's a collector, look, and we have tons of historical NFT collectors in this room right now. This is kind of how a lot of us entered this space. And you all know the issue with the legacy collection. Everything is on one collection. So Rare Pepes, Namecoin, Doge Party, everything is all one collection. What the migration does at its core is allows all of those individual collections to live on their own, very own OpenSea page, right? To live independently by themselves. So communities can rally around those individual pages, right? So if you're talking to somebody and you're Dogfather and you want to talk about Doge Party, it's real nice to be able to just point them to one link on OpenSea where they can see all the NFTs there. That at the core is what this is about. Everything else is details. But for most people, most collectors, that's the main thing. That's the thing that's going to move needles for, certainly historic NFT collections. But also, like with the Rare Stamps going forward, allows these new collections, new things that pop up, bitmaps and ordinals and cursed ordinals and all of these things to live independently rather than in a big blob of the Emblem Vault legacy contract.
And the main issue that we're solving here, and I'll call on you, Degentra, in a second. Scams, right? We've seen this happen time and time again. And as Adam and I have worked at Emblem since November, we see every time there's a new collection that finds its way into the legacy collection, these scammers come out and they use the same bag of tricks over and over and over. Yep. And we've mitigated a lot of those, right? We've added that you have to have an asset inside of the vault. We've updated the flagging system many times. We've had to turn off ETH minting at some point. But there's only so much you could do on this contract because it was deployed in 2020 and just does not hold the types of code for us to be able to upgrade that kind of stuff. And so if you've seen the 3 to 4 different curated collections we have between Inscriptions, Curse Ordinals, and Urpepe, you've not heard a single issue when it comes to the issues that exist on Emblem Legacy. And so with Inscriptions that popped up, we were just like, all right, this we have the case studies. It's proven. We're going to cut out and eliminate, 99.9% of the issues that exist on Emblem Legacy. And so now we're going to make this coordinated effort. And so I'm going to call on Decentralize for a second, and then I'll continue with the rest.
Yeah, so I guess we can come back to this after you finish. But I was going to ask this before you started this speech in general. So are you guys sort of heading towards not an on-cyber type experience, but like a multi-chain, almost MySpace for NFTs type thing? Or are you kind of focusing on being like the back end for that kind of system? Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, so Emblem's an infrastructure company, infrastructure, tools, and education. You can use a vault for NFTs, for DeFi, for gaming, for metaverse, for storage. It's essentially like a crypto Swiss Army knife, because all Emblem is at its core is a wallet address from a different blockchain inside of an NFT. And so with that, with the private keys that exist on Ethereum, although the native asset exists on its native chain. So for example, when you send an ordinal, if you're going to send a Bitcoin DGOD into an Emblem Vault, the DGOD exists still on Bitcoin because it's in a Taproot wallet, but the private keys are locked up in the vault, and that's the NFT, the ERC-721, is what trades. So some people, they'll take that DGOD, then they'll go put it into their on Cyber gallery. Some people take that DGOD and go onto NFTFi and borrow against it. Some people will take it and go sell it on OpenSea or Go Blair Farm. There's really lots of options that you can do. But when Adam and I joined the team, we said we needed to really narrow down the focus and make it as simple as possible for the users to understand. There is a huge market for Emblem Vault in DeFi. We're just not there yet because we're focused on NFTs. But there are users who go in and they could take their DGOD and go put it inside fractional.art and then fractionalize ERC-20 tokens against it and then go trade those as the way that they choose. There's a lot of different use cases for it.
Okay, but yeah, that makes sense. So I guess my main question would be, so like, I guess you don't need an answer to this, but so next stage would be basically duplicating the 721 bridge for like Solana, et cetera, would it not?
Yeah, so we're not a bridge. Just want to make sure you emphasize that. There's 3 ways to move assets across chain, at least that I'm aware of. There's bridges, right? And what a bridge is they basically print a synthetic token on the other side. There's wrapping, which is what you see WBTC. And then there's a vault. And if I had to make an analogy, this is the same one that I use. So don't get mad if those have heard this already. If blockchains are countries, then there's 3 ways to move between these countries. You have a bridge, which would be the equivalent of like an actual bridge, driving across it maybe, or type of airplane. You have wrapping, which I don't actually have a good analogy for.
Still working on the analogy.
Yeah, I don't know, like teleport, I guess. I don't know. And vaults would be comparative of like a shipping container. You're putting something in a shipping container and you're moving it across. And so the real asset is still inside of that container itself. It's not a synthetic that's on the other side. It's not put into another contract. It's just a wallet that exists inside of an ERC-721 or ERC-1155 token. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to see where the focus was. Like from my perspective as like a collector and doing the Ordinals focus and stuff right now, it seems like the initial goal for me would be like, bring as many people from Solana over to Ordinals, right?
Yeah. So I mean, the ultimate goal, Emblem right now is deployed on Ethereum, Polygon, and BNB. We have goals to deploy on Ordinals, to deploy on Solana, to deploy on BNB and Cardano and all these other ones. We still have to actively explore, what's possible or not. But I'll use this example of rare pepes. Are you familiar with rare pepes by chance?
I have some, yes. I do own some rare pepes.
So imagine this rare pepe curated collection we have on Ethereum is also deployed on Bitcoin, on Solana, on Polygon, on all these other chains. And then there's a button that says you can move this rare pepe to any of the curated collections across any of the blockchains. And so you're basically meeting collectors where they are. And that's probably one of a handful of final products for curated collections. But that ability to, have rare pepe in your ecosystem, because let's say you're building a metaverse on Solana and you want to have that Nakamoto card in your gallery on Solana, I think anybody should have that ability to do so. And that's what Emblem Vault does, is we're a multi-chain tool that allows, right now, the focus is of facilitating NFTs across or from any blockchain on any blockchain.
Based, I love it. I'll just go back to my initial suggestion and I can shut up and you can kick me off. But can you guys give us, I don't know, I haven't played with it enough to know if this is possible yet, but it feels like I should basically have an upgraded version of my OpenSea profile on Emblem Vault with a multi-chain kind of focus, right?
Yeah, so we don't have social profiles right now, right? That would be a component of an NFT, of an Emblem marketplace, which we've discussed, and that was the initial conversation. So if we do have a social profile of some sort, like as that said, first thought comes to as a marketplace, but we'd have to figure it out because right now Emblem just exists on marketplaces or whatever the protocols that want to integrate it. We don't own outside of the Emblem Vault protocol, we don't own any other protocols, but could change in the future. All right. So that was actually a really good question. So thank you for asking that, because I'm sure some people were confused. So what are the benefits then? Right, we went over some of the issues with the legacy contract. So if you're a user, you're like, okay, what are the benefits? So what happened, and we observed this with the Rare Pepe collection of users having to unvault their legacy vault to the curated, and it just did not work well. We have a little over 200 assets in about 3 months. And we've just come to decide, and we've just come to understand that users, even if there's a little bit of friction, they just don't want to do it, especially if they have to pay to unvault and vault, right? So if I want to take my Nakamoto card and move it to the Rare Pepe collection, right now I got to pay $10 to unvault and then $10 to vault. Now, if I have 300 Rare Pepes in vaults, right, that's going to cost me, 4 ETH to do so, or 3 ETH to do so. On this side, the migration that we're doing for the users is free. There's no gas fee. So if you have 500 vaults, or even we'll use smaller number, if you have 20 vaults, it would cost you the equivalent of, what is that, $400 or something? 400, right? 4,000. I don't know. I'm bad at math. Now you don't have to pay for anything because we're doing it for you. And I will explain the process after this. So for a lot of users, doing nothing is the best option because you don't have to pay. You get to save your time. And we've actually had a lot of requests of users just asking to do it for them. And we watched and observed the Rare Pepe curated collection to kind of give us a case study on whether it's the right option or not.
Yep.
Adam went over, increased project discoverability, protocol discoverability, gets its own OpenSea collection. So you can see a future. The OpenSea leaderboard, it says Doge Party, Counterparty, Rare Pepe, 12-fold, Bitcoin Punks, etc., as their own unique collections where you can go and bid on traits and etc. Shared creator royalties, of course, this is a case-by-case basis, but having the ability, to share some of those royalties with the project creator, with the protocol foundation, with whoever it is after that discussion, it's something that we're very excited and open to, just as we're sharing royalties 33% with the BRC-20 creators for a BRC-20 creator collection, just as we're sharing royalties with the Rare Pepe creators. Every time their card sells, they get a share of that royalty. We can do that with all of these new upgraded ones. To an extent, of course, I have to say it depends on the circumstances, as all blockchain protocols are different. So increased smart contract security, as we discussed, and functionality. These contracts are upgradable, so we can add different types of features based off of who is the team behind that individual collection or protocol-based collection. So if you're Yuga Labs and the 12-fold curated collection, you could take your 12 folds now and then go put it into other side, but maybe they need some sort of other functionality on the contract. We could work with them to build that so that it integrates well with other side. That's just an example. This cool feature we have as well, which I think is good for creators, is the ability to migrate from protocol-based curated collections to project-based curated collections. What's the big one? What does that even mean, right?
Let me break it down for you simply. It's like a simple one that pretty much everybody in this room is going to understand. So we're going to have Namecoin, for example. Namecoin is going to be a protocol level curated collection. So on that curated collection on OpenSea will be all the Namecoin assets. And if you want to mint more, if I make a brand new Namecoin asset today, I can put it in that collection, right? From that, we can then pull out puny codes, for example, most well-known, Namecoin collection. They can have their own curated collection, and we'll have their own when we do this. But say another Namecoin down the road in 5 years, a new Namecoin thing pops up, right? And there's this great PFP collection. It's punks on Namecoin, and everybody loves them, and they want their own curated collection. We can pull them out uniquely and separately and create their own curated collection for OpenSea. And that is it's huge. It's huge, man. So yeah, I'm super psyched about that functionality that's going to be possible going forward.
Yeah, I've talked to Dogfather about this too, about the Doge Party collection or protocol, right? You've had NFTs on Dogecoin since 2014. A lot of people don't know that. But there's really right now, there's no emergent leader of Dogecoin NFTs. So they're all going to sit in this protocol of Dogecoin. And whenever that leader does pop up, then we have that ability to upgrade them to their own individual. So for example, there's one that's called Rare Doge, which is like Rare Pepes. If now that increased, exposure shines the light and people on ETH decide that's what they want and to be the leader, then we can then move it to its own collection. So it's a very, very exciting time for that, for non-EVM based projects. Increased decentralized product. I kind of explained that already. We've talked with a handful of protocols from DLCs, discrete log functions, to key encryption protocols and storages to find out what's the best way to create a more decentralized Emblem product. And as I said, that's something we want as well. So moving here will give us that additional functionality. API infrastructure, we've been slowly building out. If you go to our documentation, you can see there's APIs for balance checkers and curse ordinals and all these other things, inscriptions, right? Get inscribe and then get it on Ethereum. So we're going to keep adding that as Emblem moves to like this pivotal tool and infrastructure company. And then the Coval discount system and future integrations, right? Coval has moved to become a discount. So right now the vaulting fee is $20 in ETH, but if you own 50,000 Coval, which is about $500, that gets chopped down 50%. So the Coval is used for our power users. Currently, we do have some plans for future integrations, right? Maybe we want to like token gate some of the APIs, right? Or create something where you have to use Coval to purchase some of the future things that we want to build. This all can happen now with kind of this upgraded infrastructure, which I know there's over 7,000 Coval holders. So I know you guys would be excited to hear that. And so here, even if you go in the Medium, you can see some of this estimated supply post-migration. We're also going to be creating an Emblem Vault Open. The name is still to be determined, which is essentially just a new version of Emblem Vault Legacy for those, multi blockchain vaults. Let's say you want to take an Ethereum asset, a Bitcoin asset, and a Solana asset and put it all in a single vault because you're selling a package deal or whatever the case is. You'll be able to do that on our new contract. And then the project-based ones are super cool, right? This is crazy because Rare Pepe post-migration is going to have 22,000 Rare Pepes in it. That is insane to think about, right? Like what kind of price impact or I guess exposure will that have on Rare Pepe because there's 22,000 in here? Like that, just because of the sheer, sorry, I was getting a phone call. Just because of the sheer amount of size of Rare Pepe, the math that I've done is you can have about 200,000 assets vaulted without, that's if you disclude any Rare Pepe that has 1,000 supply or over. You could easily see this being like a top 50 collection just because of how many NFTs can be in that collection, right? And what kind of impact does that have on Rare Pepe as people become more familiar with it? So that's like one of my favorite components, 22,000. We're going to be creating a fake rares collection as well, right? Puny Codes is getting its own collection. Some of these other ones that maybe aren't lesser known, which we could, I'm almost confident one of these collections will catch more traction now that it's easier. Something like Bitcoin Crops or Memory Chain, Oasis Mining. Some of these very early ones, right? Puny Codes finally getting their own. There will be some of those emergence. So we're getting about 30 to 35 curated collections post-migration. And that is going to be happening on July 12th. And
yeah, I mean, just to jump in and speak to historical NFT collector again real quick. I mean, how great would it have been if, I recall Bull Run 2021 not pushing people to OpenSea to buy Rare Pepes because it was too confusing and I thought people were going to lose money, right? Specifically not tweeting about it because I was concerned people were going to lose money. Next Bull Run, knock on wood, hope it happens. For people to be able to, communities to be able to point people directly to curated collections where they can go look at Puny Codes or Blockheads or whatever it is, Spells of Genesis, whatever, and feel 100% comfortable that nobody's going to get, hit a scammer or run into something, a bad actor. It's going to be huge for the next bull run. This is like the infrastructure we need as a community. And yeah, so I'm pumped for it, man.
All right, MTNS, I'm giving you another chance this time. Please do not recall me or I'm going to have to remove you again. Good.
Keep hoping for the best, Jake. You keep hoping for the best. Bro.
Yeah, I try to give him some hearts, but
you know it's a red flag if they're not following you, bro. If they're not following you, don't even bring them up, man.
Yeah. Decentralize. Go ahead.
So what I'm hearing here is that I need to load up on rare Pepes, right?
It should always be loading up on rare Pepes, my friend.
This is true. Okay.
Always.
Rare Pepes and Spells of Genesis.
Always be buying. Yes, always be buying.
I think fake rares will actually have like a good amount too, because you do have a lot of ETH NFT artists who have created fake rares, from Coldy to Mike 3 to Art Gnome to literally almost everyone has a fake rare, which is kind of the successor to rare Pepes. At least that was on Counterparty. So I think it'll help kind of jumpstart that as well, and create. It's just really good for the Pepe community. Memes were born on Counterparty, or tokenized memes were born on Counterparty, and that's what makes us really, really excited.
Totally.
So here now is kind of the big thing, right? What are my options? I have 5 rare Pepe cards. What do I do? There's 2 options. You do nothing. And if you do nothing, we will automatically migrate your legacy vault to a specific curated collection that best matches its asset. There's no cost to the users, no time commitment, or anything of that nature. Let's say you're not confident in the process, or you just prefer you get your stuff off Ethereum and you want to bring it back to Namecoin or Doge Party or whatever it is. It's the same process. You just go unlock your Emblem Legacy Vault and you import the seed phrase or the private keys to the wallet of your choice. And if you have no idea how to do this, go to our YouTube channel, because we've created a video for literally every single blockchain that exists, or at least 90% of them. It's a very, very simple process. Watch the videos, read the blogs. They're all there for you guys for this specific reason for this day. And now the big question that everyone's watched, right? How is this technically possible? I want to trust Emblem Vault, but I'm unsure what to do. So first, you got to understand what migration even means. So migrating is not new in any sense to Ethereum, to NFTs. It's been something that's been happening for probably almost a decade now at this point, but we'll keep it to just the NFTs itself. I think from my understanding, the first migration of NFTs was actually EtherID, moving their 2015 contract to the 2016 contract. And they did that with an airdrop. One of the most famous migrations, right? Larva Labs with the V2 CryptoPunks. They found a bug in the V1 contract. They airdropped the V2s. Same thing with ENS. ENS moved to a 2019 contract from their 2017 contract to migrate those assets. And then more recently, we've seen 2 kind of move. DGods moved, right? They moved Utes to Polygon, and then they moved DGods, Solana DGods to Ethereum DGods. They didn't use the airdrops with this method. They used a one-way bridge, which I believe was very unique. I don't think I've seen a one-way bridge for migration before.
No, you've seen it now again. Ordinals, baby. The telemer.
Yeah,
that's what I call a one-way bridge. You literally just burn the asset and then get it on the other side. Mint a new one on the other side. That's a one-way bridge, man.
One-way bridge. And the most recent one, which caused a lot of conversation, was Truth Labs and Nifty Labs. They migrated Goblin Town, Illuminati, and the 187, and they did an airdrop. We actually got on a call this week with Truth Labs and with Nifty Labs to discuss their experience with the migration, and they gave us a lot of information. Adam was on that call. What was your takeaway from that conversation?
Really helpful as far as coordinating with marketplaces to pause trading around the contracts. They gave us some good advice there. They gave us advice as far as community goes. It was interesting. Their main takeaway from the community is their community was fine with it, but the FUD around it from crypto Twitter was not fine with it. And was interesting. They really, their main thing was they wanted people to know about it, and boy, did people know about it, right? So they actually, they actually were successful in what they did. Which, if you guys tracked it, the art they did with the guy giving the middle finger and stuff, those guys are quite brilliant, and it actually worked and played right into what they were trying to do, which was raise awareness around their migration. Ours is, different technically than what they're doing, but they had some really nice advice for us.
Yeah, they were really good. Shout out to AJT and the Nifty Labs team. So, okay. So now to the migration, what is happening? And think of it. I'll let Adam do this explanation because
Sure.
my exotic one with airplanes was not received very well.
I think, look, most people like myself, we're not big brains. We're not really interested too much in the hyper technical details, right? That's for the devs to kind of work on. But basically, the way I look at it is this, right? Your NFT, let's take your rare Pepe, because that's the simple one, which everybody understands. Your rare Pepe is held in a wallet that's inside of an Emblem Vault right now. Think of that Emblem Vault as a box, right? And that wallet's inside that box. So your counterparty asset, your rare Pepe, is sitting in that wallet that's sitting inside of a box. All we're doing is basically pointing to a brand new box. So your wallet doesn't change. Your rare Pepe doesn't move outside of that wallet, doesn't move at all. We're simply swapping the old legacy box for a brand new box. That's it. So the asset itself doesn't move. The wallet that holds that asset never moves. It never moves from your ownership, as far as like your wallet address, never moves. We're simply giving you a new box that holds that wallet. And that new box will show up right in your wallet, show right up on OpenSea and everything. You literally don't have to do anything. The old box will still be there. This is important to know. That old box is still going to be there. It's going to be labeled as empty, and basically it's an empty vault now. So that's an empty box, an empty shell. That'll still be in your wallet as well. And you can do whatever you want. You can hide it, do nothing with it. It doesn't matter. That'll still be there. It'll basically be untradeable. But just so you know, those boxes, that box isn't going to get burned, the old box. That box is still going to be in your wallet. But the new box is going to be there as well. And that new box is going to have that same wallet, your same rare Pepe, same everything. It's just a brand new box.
Yeah. So this is where it comes into the kind of, or the discussion with coordinating with the NFT marketplaces to freeze trading. And so on July 11th, OpenSea, along with all of the other marketplaces that we've talked with, is going to freeze trading indefinitely. And it's up to those marketplaces whether they want to delist the legacy collection or if they just want to pause it and allow it to trade afterwards, because there's going to be mostly empty boxes on there as well. But there are some vaults that will not be migrated, the ones that are locked up in contracts. So if your legacy vault is inside fractional.art, if it's inside Unically, if it's inside of a pseudo swap pool, if it's in a loan on one of the NFT loan platforms, that will not be migrated. But lucky for you, whenever it is pulled out of that contract, you could go to emblem.finance and you can unvault it and move it into any of the 30 new curated collections that is pertinent to that. It's taken a lot of coordination. We've got in contact with most of the NFT marketplaces. The NFT protocols that we have talked with have already begun to delist Emblem Vault. So on Arcade and NFTFi, the two loan platforms, they have delisted the legacy collection. There are some loans that still are outstanding. Ordinals market has moved on from the vaulting. They've removed that. OpenSea will freeze. We have an open channel with them. We're working with them very actively to ensure that not only the Emblem legacy contract is frozen during this time, but all of the new collections will be verified upon deployment. So that is really big. It took us a long time to build this relationship with OpenSea, but we have a very good relationship now, direct line of communication. So it's very well. We've talked with X2Y2, talked with Magic Eden. There's like 2 or 3 that we haven't discussed with. yet. So we're still actively working on that, and I'll continue to update this as we kind of move forward. But it is important to know this, and I do really kind of want to emphasize this. Do not trade on the legacy contract after migration. I would encourage not to. Of course, there's going to be some degens who just don't listen. But again, right, 99% of them are going to be empty boxes. So if you want to go throw up bids and potentially
99.999. Yeah.
They're going to be empty. So please do not engage in that. If we're working with OpenSea, right? Well, from my understanding, and we're still waiting for a little bit of clarification with OpenSea, when they pause the collection, it removes all the bids, it removes all the listings, it removes all of the auctions. We're waiting to see if the one point of clarification we're waiting to see is that if they can remove it off of Seaport, which is basically what Reservoir and all these other marketplaces use. If that's the case, right, that solves 99% of the issues. But also encouragement to stay away from any aggregators afterwards that are using the legacy collection, because, right, we're going individually to every NFT marketplace. They have to actively freeze it. And if they decide not to, then it's going to get very, very bad on their platform. And like I said, we have reached out to all of them and sent a message. At least there's about 2 that haven't responded yet. And there's one who's kind of giving us a little bit of trouble. But, we're giving users over 2 weeks from today until the 12th, about 2 weeks, to go unvault your assets if that's what you want to do. We have no issue if you want to. Again, there is no problem if you want to go unvault it and go watch from the sidelines. If there's any ounce of uncertainty with this, if you feel, I would encourage you to unvault them and hold them throughout the process.
Sure.
I also want to clarify that in Emblem's 3 years that has been deployed on Ethereum, we've never lost one asset ever to some sort of like troubleshooting on the back end. Every complication with the vault has been solved to this day.
Yep. Look, man, holding stuff on its native chain is like, we're self-sovereign individuals and believe in it, right? There's no issue. You will get zero pushback from us for keeping stuff on its native chain, unvault, hold your rare Pepes on counterparty. You do you. That's good for you. I have less than zero issue. I encourage you to do it. So, but we do want to make this as painless as possible. And certainly a zero migration fee, zero gas fees altogether. I mean, look, this is going to cost us, I don't even know, $60,000, $70,000 to do this, which would have been paid for by the users previously. I think we're doing a solid, I think, for the community as a whole. And because we believe in this, like we believe that these collections should have their own pages. We believe from a collectability standpoint, a future, when I'm looking at stuff in the future and I'm looking into historical NFTs or, just other chains, ordinals, whatever, I want to be able to buy with confidence. Everybody wants to be able to buy with confidence. So it's the obvious way forward. It took a while to get here. Obviously, it's a massive build. Props to Shannon and the devs for, working on this. But this is the way forward. I'm 100% convinced on that.
There's a lot to look forward to on the other side. I pulled up here on YouTube. We added this to the bottom of the press release, a preview of the new UI that's coming to Emblem Vault. We're also going to shorten, or at least the goal is to change first the vaulting experience, but also reduce the amount of clicks required to create a vault. We know it's taken a few steps, and also Emblem is highly inefficient on mobile. So this new UI upgrade, Emblem worked frictionlessly and efficient on mobile. This UI or this UX that you could see here, very similar to what you see on OpenSea, what you see on Blur. We're trying to make it as familiar as possible, adding a leaderboard, adding some other gadgets and hoo-has. And the vaulting experience, again, it should just be a few clicks, and that's kind of the goal. And hopefully this will be rolled out, right after migration. But we're still all working on it. And then Emblem gets to scale, which is something we want. It's something the users want. We're working with 2 devs that hopefully on the other side of this, can become full-time team members. Maybe we could get a community manager. But we have a lot of products in mind for the future of Emblem. And this is really just the next chapter for it. And couldn't be more excited. Again, dates to remember. July 11th is when everything is getting paused. That's the claiming, right? If you want to unlock your vault and the freeze on the marketplaces. And once we have confirmation from that, then the next day, supposedly or tentatively, is when the migration begins. You don't have to do anything. If you want to watch the contract to see how it all goes, then have fun doing it. This is probably going to be a multi-week process. Again, we don't really have a timeline on how long it could actually take. But let's say, if you're doing 2 collections per day and there's 30, right? That's going to take literally 3 to 4 weeks. I don't think it'll take that long. But again, there's no specific timeline. But once we're done with this, I think all of us at Emblem Vault are probably going to need a vacation. After all that. And then also, to simplify it, next week is BRC-20 week. The week after is migration week. To put it as simple as possible. Go ahead, Ethord.
Yeah, I got a question. So 3 scenarios. Tell me what these would look like. 1, I have just 1 rare Pepe card in the vault, and I do nothing. My understanding is it'll actually go into the rare Pepe and be that single card. But scenario 2 is if I have a vault with 1 Spells of Genesis. Actually, let's say 20 Spells of Genesis cards, all Spells of Genesis. What happens to that? And then scenario 3 is I have a collection of Unicode and Litecoin, Punk, and all sorts of random stuff across various chains. So what are those 3 things look like?
You're saying in the same vault you have multiples.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Currently, we're still testing, but as of this moment, the multi-chain ones will either go into the open collection, or will have to be unvaulted. But I believe it's going to go into the open collection. There could be a case where it just gets put into. We've discussed where it's like we don't want to have to decide if there's 3 assets, right? If you have a rare Pepe, Litecoin, Punk, and something else in one vault, we don't want to have to say which one is going to be the lead, because we know what's going to happen is the user is going to sell it and then be like, I forgot my other assets were inside of this vault. Which it happened with the inscriptions. Like
we've seen it a ton with these inscriptions, right? And I think that's the benefit of having this like Emblem Vault open contract going forward, where people can still play around. You can still have multiple assets, right, in a vault. You can still do all these things you kind of could do. All these kind of experiments can still happen with Emblem Vault. The beauty going forward is that if something happens there and it gets enough interest and traction, we can actually move that into its own, curated collection. And I think that's what's really interesting and cool. If that makes sense. Does that make sense, Ethor?
It does, but so scenario 2 though, where I have multiple of the same collection all in one vault, does that go into this like hodgepodge open collection too, or that would go into Spells of Genesis, but it wouldn't be split open? It would say like 5 cards in this vault or something.
That's what we're saying is if right now, if there's multiple cards or multiple assets inside of one vault, likely going to go into the open collection. I know there's been a lot of airdrops that have happened with these rare Pepe cards or Doge Party cards. I opened up a Doge Party card or vault the other day. There was like 10 assets in there because it was from airdrops. The issue becomes, and this is maybe part of the open discussion, does Emblem Vault want to make that decision of what is the priority asset in that assorted vault is kind of where it becomes. But also, let's say you have 5 of the rare Pepes in one vault. The issue becomes if we vault that then and move it to the official collection, there's a possibility the user is going to sell that while forgetting that they
they have multiple assets in the same vault.
Yeah, and on the other side too, right? If it could go to the protocol collection. So if it's all counterparty assets, we could just move it to the counterparty collection. But if it's a multi-vault collection, if there's a name coin, I'm just going to use an example, right? If there's a Doge Party, a counterparty, and an Ordinal, in one collection, it's likely to go to the open one. But if it's all the same, then it could go to the counterparty. Again, this is where we have to be like very precise, the precision. That Shannon dev team have to, do very specific calculations to understand that. But does that make sense, right? So you have the open, which is multi blockchain assets. You have the protocol level if it's all one protocol, and then if it's just one card, then it can go into the individual collection if it exists.
Yeah, that makes sense. Scenario 1 and 3 are pretty straightforward because but 2 is, I mean, we don't have to certainly go the route that we've seen in the past, but let's say what we have with curio cards, right? You're in the curio cards on OpenSea where they're all split up into each individual ones. But if someone wanted to try to sell 1 through 10, they could make a package. It would still fall in that. It wouldn't fall outside of it, right?
Yeah. So if you want to bulk sell your curio cards, it would probably go into the open collection since we don't have a curio. Since we don't have a curio.
I was using curio as an example on ETH the way that
it's a good example. It's a good example of.
Yeah,
so although I completely understand what you're saying, right? I have a full set of curios. I want to sell it in the curio page on OpenSea. Unfortunately, with like the 1155s and the way it works, I don't believe that's technically possible for us to do that. If that makes sense.
Yeah, the curio card. Yeah, the curio wrapper is 1155.
Yep.
So just a different dynamic. So yeah, large endeavor that we're going under, a lot of things happening, right? The 3 main things, if you take away, is we have the BRC-20s next week. We have the migration, which will be, July 12th to 3 weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks, or 2 to 4 weeks. And then the UI upgrade that'll happen. And then from there, right, it's probably expanding the curated collections to more block, or for more block. We can add more blockchains, right? We can start experimenting. I had a conversation yesterday, and this just maybe to get like juices flowing in people's minds. There's this individual who has 4 collections on 4 different protocols: Bitcoin stamps, Curse Ordinals, ETHscriptions, Ethereum, and something else. And he was like, "Hey, can we do a super curated collection where I could put all these assets on one smart contract?" And from my understanding, yeah, it's possible as long as we support those blockchains. So that for him, it makes a lot of sense because now he gets all those assets next to each other on one page, and it's easier for him to do airdrops and token gated things, and also again, one link to his collectors to just go in and be able to value them next to each other. And also how cool it'd be if you do like a sweeping function and you sweep 4 different blockchains in one transaction. Pretty cool, right? So a lot of cool possibilities there. If anyone has any other questions, hop up here. If not, there's the blog is there, and we'll probably be discussing it again throughout the week to ensure, that we have a very frictionless process. Largest NFT migration possibly in history. I don't want to say for sure because you can never say you're the first in this space.
It's definitely one of the biggest migrations ever. That's for sure.
Yeah. Some precision. Yeah. The devs are like surgeons here in this situation. But yeah, I'd like to end that here. I'm probably going to cut out that section and be able to post it. We've been going at this for 2 hours. I hope everyone's really excited about, BRC-20s on ETH. I'm very excited about that. I know Domo and BitGod are very excited about that. Bringing some additional efficiency and liquidity to the market. And then the migration, the big hoo-ha from there. Adam, any final words before we wrap this up?
And I'm psyched for next week, man. This is like really fun to try this out and work with these guys, work with Domo and BitGod and see how it works, man. And see if we can get traction on the ETH side, right? I mean, that's the main thing, right? Seeing if ETH traders, ETH whales are going to be interested in trading a Bitcoin product. It's going to be fun to watch, man.
Fun to watch. Anyone on stage have any final words before we close it out of here?
Just wanted to say that Ethereum is bipolar today. I don't know what's going on. It's dropping, and now we're over 1900 again. But when we started this, we were at 1850. I don't know what's going on.
Man, stop watching price, bro. That's my advice for the weekend. No more price watching.
Yeah, the ETF. I don't know if you saw, the SEC said that the ETF submissions are inadequate. So I think that's what caused some of the sell off. I don't know. Maybe BlackRock came out and said that they bought Gary Gensler or something. Who knows? Anytime there's that type of like macro policy decision making, you just see whipsaws in both directions, up and down. So I have not traded fungible tokens in a while because of that.
Totally, man.
Impossible. Well, I appreciate everyone for coming on, man. It's been a long grind to get to where we are. A lot of exciting future cross-chain products coming up. Everyone, it's Friday. Make sure you go touch some grass. It's summer. I'm out here in Vegas. It finally hit 100 degrees for the first time, so it's probably gonna be 100 degrees on Christmas. But we're gonna have a blast, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.